Dear students, the chapter I will talk about today is entitled The Research Proposal. So first of all, we would like to define it. A research proposal is a suggestion for a research project. It is a requirement for any student who is beginning a research paper. And since it is a proposition, it can be either refused or accepted. A research proposal should answer 3 questions: what, why, and how. What is the topic you would like to investigate? Or what is the research problem you would like to research? And what are the reasons that pushed you to think about writing that research paper? And how you will collect your data and you will analyze it. A research paper is never a solo flight. In other words, it's not something that can be done in your ivory tower or in your corner alone. Your references will not be enough. Your own resources will not be enough. Therefore, you need to contact other people, to consult other references on the net and in libraries, and above all, you need the approval of your supervisor. Many students foolishly make the mistake of disappearing in the first sessions of meetings with their supervisors, and then showing up after a short time or a long time and bringing a full part already written. Most of the time, this part is plagiarized. So instead of gaining time, they waste time and their work is simply rejected. Instead, I do advise students to meet their supervisors on a regular basis and to get their approval about every single thing they are doing, so that the research can go in a smooth way, in a quick way, and they can hopefully finish their work in due time. The proposal discusses explicitly the problem. In other words, there is no place for ambiguity, no place for misunderstanding, no place for misinterpretation. The research problem should be stated in a clear way so that it is understood by your supervisor. And you have to highlight how your research will be implemented. In other words, how you will do your research, how you will collect your data, and how you will collect it, arrange it, and interpret it. What are the instrumental or personal resources available? In other words, what do you have? Which references you have? And which instruments you will use in your research paper? Many students sometimes start a research without having the right instruments or without having enough resources, and this, of course, will lead them nowhere. That's why when your supervisor will see your instruments and you talk about them in clear details, and when you will show him the resources that you have, then he will decide whether your research paper is feasible or not. Not only the problem should be stated clearly, but also its attendant sub-problems. Remember that we can divide a problem into 2, 3, or 6 as a maximum. Sub-problems should be stated in the form of questions that needs to be answered later on in a simple question. Your key terms needs to be defined. Many students rely on definitions provided by dictionaries, which is not appropriate. For example, we suppose that the concept you have in your problem is related to bilingualism. If you look at this definition from a dictionary, then it provides a broad definition. Instead, you have to define your word in the way it will be used in your research paper. In other words, according to the field in which you are working. So defining bilingualism, for example, from a sociolinguistic point of view, can yield a different definition compared to the one from a psycholinguistic perspective. Then you need to delimit your problem. In other words, you have to put boundaries to your research paper. We suppose that you are doing research in Morocco. As a student, you cannot cover all the areas or the regions in Morocco. Better limit yourself to something that can be done. For example, you can focus on a city, on a region, or in an area. In other words, you have to do something that can be done. And then your hypothesis should be articulated. Remember that for each sub-problem, a hypothesis should be mentioned, which is an assumption, a guess from the part of a researcher, which needs to be verified after doing research. At the end, your hypothesis may be either corroborated or refuted. And then you highlight the importance of the study. You explain why you want to do this research, mainly because you would like to fill in a gap in literature, or to answer a question which is which concerns a big number of people in due time. Then you have to show how your raw data will be collected, where it will be collected, and when it will be collected, how it will be arranged, organized, and how it will be interpreted. In other words, which statistical instruments we will be using, if any, to analyze your data. Then you write your outline of the proposed study. Remember that an outline is but a guide. And we have seen how we can write an outline, mainly by looking at the references that you will use and asking yourself about their relatedness to your problem. Then after answering this question, then you group together references referring to the same thing, and then you gather them under the same heading. An outline is not a prison. It is a flexible tool that can be modified throughout your research paper if needed. But it's important to have it at the very beginning to make sure that you know where you are going. You have to show to your future supervisor what are the resources that you have, for example, references, and whether the data you will be collecting is available and accessible. Some students sometimes like to do research about a topic which is difficult as far as collection of data is concerned. For example, suppose that you would like to collect data in a prison. It's very difficult to get the approval of decision makers to give a questionnaire to prisoners or interview them. Yes, it is not impossible, but it is difficult. That's why students should not overestimate his potentials and should be sure that the data he would like to collect is available and accessible. And the student should also clarify, explain any research process related to his research paper. So what are the characteristics of a proposal? A proposal is a straightforward document. Nothing is better than simplicity. There is no place for irrelevant elements, no place for redundancies. You have to go straight to the point in a simple way so that it is clear for your supervisor. It begins with a simple, concise statement of the problem. No introduction is needed, no prologues, no reasons why you had that burning need to do research in that area or about that given topic. A research proposal is not a literary work. What matters is that you are communicative. There is no need to be artistic. While writing your proposal, the aesthetic value should not predominate. What matters is that your message is clear for your supervisor so that he either accepts or refuses your research paper. So, it should be clearly organized, using the most conventional prose style, using simple paragraph forms, and of course using the proper headings and subheadings that you have in your outline. So what is the content and organization of a proposal? First, the problem, which is stated in a simple, crystal clear way, and its setting. In other words, where and when you will collect your data. It should be stated in a very straightforward, simple way, without any extraneous elements. Sub-problems should also be stated in the form of questions. We remember that answering those sub-problems can solve the big problem above. And then hypotheses for each subproblem should be mentioned. Those hypotheses will be verified because they are just assumptions. They have to be verified later on while doing your research to see whether they can be either corroborated or refuted. There is no problem if your hypothesis is refuted. In other words, students should not feel the need that their hypothesis must be corroborated at the end. What matters is that after doing your investigation, you come up to the right answers. And then you delimit your research project, saying, this is what I will do exactly, this is where I will collect my data, and remember not to impose on yourself a challenge that is too difficult to achieve. Then you define the key terms used in your research proposal. Remember not to use definitions provided in dictionaries because generally they are broad definitions. Rather, define the concept according to the field in which you are working, so that together with your future supervisor, you agree about every single statement from the very beginning. And then you highlight the importance of your study. Then we need a headline, which is the review of the related literature. Here, you need a selection of references that you will use, especially in the theoretical part. It is a selection because this is just the beginning of your research journey, and then, of course, you will add other references. While talking about those selected references, make sure to talk about the trends, the focus in those references, especially those related to your problem. So you need a review of the related literature. In this title, you need to have a selected list of references that you will use. In this list, of course, it is a selection because you will for sure add other references later on. Make sure that all the references you are referring to are related to your problem. And don't forget to talk about the trends, the focus of those references and how they are related to your problem. You can also talk about references that are related to your country and whether they have tackled the same problem. Then we have your data, the way it will be collected and how it will be collected, how it will be treated, how it will be interpreted, how it will be statistically analyzed, and the research methodology you will use. We know that collecting raw data can be done through many ways, be it an interview, a questionnaire, observation. So you have to highlight which method you will use, besides whether your research will be a quantitative research or a qualitative one. You have to do the same thing for all your subproblems. How you predict their treatment, where you will find their data, and where the data is located, where it will be found, and how it will be treated, arranged, organized, and interpreted. Then you write the outline of the proposed study. We know that to come up with an outline, you need to look at all the references that you have used, say how they are related to your problem, compare those references together, and arrange together the references that refer to the same element related to your problem, and then organize them this way and come up with the right headings. At the end, you need to have a selected bibliography. These references is but the beginning, that you will add other references later on. Make sure that all the references that you will use are related to your research problem. And of course, those references needs to be organized in an alphabetical order, following any of the well-known styles. So you can write your bibliography using the APA style or the MLA style. You can use whatever style you want. What matters is that you are consistent in following one and only one style. Thank you very much.